curtain in a Fox Business exclusive is Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Well, that's an interesting question. Buy today and then hold. Don't sell for 10 years. How many people came in with the survey, and what did they say?
We have thousands of people that answer our bi-monthly survey. And are you bullish? Are you bearish? And what stocks do you own? And what would you hold for a long time? This is the most recent survey. What do you think took the top spot? The biggest stock in the market, the stock that has been the story stock for the past few years, that's NVIDIA. But when you go down the list, there's some fascinating names. I saw Palantir cracking the top 10 on that. I saw Costco. It shows you maybe an older investor wants to hold that stock for 10 years. Fascinating look at what people are thinking about and feeling and where they think their money will be the safest and will grow the most.
And I would imagine your readers are pretty intelligent and market savvy, so they know enough to look forward, propel, and kind of project to see exactly what kind of revenues could be on the horizon. How do they make their judgments? I mean, NVIDIA seems like a very easy one. So it came in at 16%. The next nearest choice was Microsoft at 8%, then Apple, Berkshire Hathaway at 6%, Amazon.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. I mean, the respondents probably have done a lot of research.
Yeah, and these are self-directed investors, active investors who like putting money to work. So they love picking their favorite stocks. And guess what? This list looks a lot like their top 10 today, which tells you they're comfortable with their holdings, which goes back to something I heard you talk about in an earlier segment. Any dip in the market is just being bought up. It's this relentless bid, and it's this relentless bid after maybe 20, 25 of the biggest stocks out there, plus some outliers, which we saw this year. The MicroStrategies of the world, the super microcomputers of the world, not on our top 10 this year. They might be there next year.
Well, the question is past prologue, because NVIDIA has done unbelievably well. 169% gain this year. It's a newbie on the Dow Jones Industrials. It just joined in November, yet it outpaced everyone on the Dow, on the blue chips, with its gains. And, you had the only one that did better overall when it came to the NASDAQ was AppLovin's 725% jump. Not the most well-known name, but pretty darn fascinating. So here are some of the top stock winners year to date. Everybody can see, of course, Palantir, there's Vista. NVIDIA keeps jumping up there at the top. ARM Holdings, very interesting, a lot of technology here. Let's talk a little bit about the terminology that people search for on Investopedia. Quite frankly, I use it all the time. Everybody should go on Investopedia. It is rock solid, it's brilliant, and it's very, very, very smart. So what were some of the choices that people said, well, I guess you could just aggregate how many searches?
We look every day, we look every week, and we look throughout the year what people are searching for. What trends, terms, or topics?
Okay, top 10 terms.
Top 10.
Starting with number one.
Yeah, guess what? It's inflation. That was top of mind for everybody in this year, and it actually bled through into the election. It wasn't just the fact that people were noticing that the growth rate was slower, but things didn't feel cheaper to them. And then what came right after that? It was tariffs because of the election, right? So you were making a choice for a lot of people. I'm not comfortable with the fact that prices are still high. On the flip side, we know tariffs will come our way if they elect President Trump into office. That's what's happened. Tariffs is trending very hard right now. I think it'll be a big one in 2025. But when you look at the top 10 and what people were kind of feeling at different points of the year, which terms and trends were interesting to people for the longest period of time, and which ones just kind of spiked and went away?
Well, I think stock split, which comes right after NVIDIA
those
was
are
number
together.
4, because NVIDIA did split, and people were, should I buy before it splits? That I would imagine. What wasn't on that list, you know what, let's put it back up again, Federal Reserve.
Right.
I thought that was interesting that the Fed wasn't on there. Bitcoin came in at number 9. Homeowners insurance at number 6. The Fed is nowhere in there.
Right. The Fed isn't in there. But what is in there is national debt, which is something nobody was talking about, right? People got used to the fact that the Federal Reserve had interest rates so high to tame inflation, and then it became a waiting game of when they're going to cut. Are they going to cut? Finally, they did in September. People were beyond that, past that, thinking about other things. And one thing that I also saw that was fascinating this year was the money line bet, which is a very big term on our site.
That was 10. One of the top
10th on the list. Why is that? Because this was the year that sports betting and betting on the election and trading all kind of smashed together, right? Finally, they're all been cousins at the same barbecue, but this was the year that the betting polls for the president were actually more correct than the actual polls. The betting odds, I should say, were more correct than the actual polls. So people were looking up money line because you could make a money line bet on Trump versus Harris going into the election.
Explain to people who may not gamble and don't know what money line is. I believe the Cleveland Browns are going to win or lose. Of course, I always say win.
Of course you do.
Of course,
Yeah.
but it's not
It's a straight
it'll be
bet.
at the 2-yard line, no detail, just straight
It's
win or
the
lose.
straightest bet you can make in gambling. It's the money line bet. What does the line say? Let's bet that line, win or lose. It's not about points. It's not about beating the spread. It's the straightest bet you can make. And people were making that bet on Poly Markets, on Robinhood, on different places around the internet. You could make the bet, and those betting odds were actually more correct than the actual polls.
So we've got a new incoming president, obviously, Donald Trump, and the word tariff was one of the very top searches. People are concerned, interested. They wonder what the implications are. Do you expect that the Trump presidency is going to be a real driver of investor questions in 2025?
100%. Why? Because it looks like a risk-on attitude, right? We've seen the rise in cryptocurrencies. We've seen the rise in a lot of stocks since the election, but also a less regulatory environment, less intense. You could see a lot more deal making. You've already seen what's happened across the crypto patch. So I think people who haven't already been into the market are going to come into the market and even into the crypto market. When we survey our readers, the number of people that said they were interested in Bitcoin went from about 8 or 9% several months ago to about 25%. Price drives interest. So you're going to see interest across the capital markets, I would say, in the next 12 months. Good news for business journalists like you and me, but also good news for people who haven't entered the market to learn about how it works. And that's what we like to see. When people are looking these terms up, they're making a decision beyond the decision, right? When they're looking up stock splits, that's an intentional investor saying, what actually happens when a company splits its stock? Is this a good time to invest or not? So you know that there's an intention behind every one of these words.
Well, we just showed that once they looked up tariffs and they look at the history of it, 65% of those surveyed thought that any potential Trump tariffs would be a negative, correct?
Yeah, that's right. On the flip side, they also see corporate taxes, lower corporate taxes, and lower individual
Positive. taxes
being a positive. That's the seesaw people were weighing with as they went to the polls this year. We know which one eventually won out on that battle, but our viewers, again, I mean our readers, I should say, are very into this. They're self-directed. They want to make choices, but they want to understand what they're doing first. Our list is so fascinating because behind every one of these is somebody making a move with their money.
You guys, when we or anybody throws out a term you don't understand, whether it's derivatives or, who knows, stock split, whatever it may be, go on Investopedia. It is a great, it's like the Oxford English Dictionary, darling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you.